Welcome to the Product Boss Podcast, where we help product-based businesses grow their sales and improve their strategies.
Hey everyone, I want to introduce you to my co-host and biz bestie, Mina Kunlo-Sitep, an Amazon guru that has built a multi-six-figure product-based business.
And introducing the other half of the Product Boss, Jacqueline Snyder. She has helped launch and grow over 500 fashion apparel and accessory brands, even one of her own.
And together, we share our inventory of secret weapons that will help you dig deep and do the work it takes.
Are you ready? Let's build together.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Product Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Jacqueline Snyder, with my delightful co-host, Mina Kunlo-Sitep. Hey Mina.
Hey Jacqueline.
So today's podcast is actually a live podcast that we've previously broadcast on our Facebook page, and we are also bringing it to you here on the podcast. And we are super excited to share this. It is 7 creative ways to use Instagram stories for your business.
Right. We have made it kind of a personal challenge to all of our community and our product bosses that we really want to focus on video. And the easiest way, I feel, in my mind, is Instagram stories. So
there it is.
There it is. It's Instagram stories, right? They're really easy to do. They are gone in 24 hours. They're fun to watch. And we're going to share with you guys the 7 ways for you to use Instagram stories for your business.
Right. But first, I want to thank everyone that has left us a review where you're listening to this podcast, especially on Apple Podcasts. It is so helpful for us to grow and reach more product-based businesses and really help them adapt, survive, and thrive during these times. So I want to shout out Jessica Greer for this incredible review. So it's titled Essential for My Business. The Product Boss Podcast is what I need to listen to every week to stay on track. I'm in the process of scaling my business, and they give away so many free tips and help me along the way. I recommend this podcast to all of my business friends. Thanks, ladies. And this is from Boxed Expressions. So make sure to follow at Boxed Expressions on Instagram. And thank you so much, Jessica.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jessica. What an awesome review. And thank you to everybody who's leaving reviews. I feel like we've gotten an influx of them, and they're super, super helpful for us to get out there and, get into more earbuds.
Absolutely. So thank you. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to pause right now, subscribe to the podcast, and if you can, leave us a positive review. All right, Mina, so let's jump into the meat and potatoes of this episode, which is 7 creative ways to use Instagram stories for your business. So Mina, what's one of the first ways that they could start being creative using stories for their business?
So the first one is the one that we all think of, I think, and that is share important messages and announcements, right? So we all have sales, we all have a product to sell. This is where we are sharing that with our audience.
Right. And so let's talk about some important messages. And since we are doing this live, I actually want to engage our audience that's watching live. And if you guys in the comments want to share some of the messages or announcements you've used in stories, go ahead and we will drop that in to the podcast live. So I would say one of the ways, depending on how your shipping is going, whether you are able to ship or not able to ship, you may make that as an announcement. Like, we're still shipping, or shipments going out on Fridays. And you might show the shipment and say you're doing that. You might also say new product launch, right? Or new bangles available to buy. These are ways in which you could share important messages and announcements.
Yeah, it could be your latest product features, or if you have something that's limited edition. So as you're doing things to show, hey, here's my sale that's happening, you want to be incorporating those announcements into that first one. Share important messages and announcements.
Absolutely. So then the next one would be to tell your story. So some sort of progression. And ultimately, when we say tell your story, you could tell the story of, your brand, your business, how you started, the progression of it all.
Right. We're going to move in more into that one later on. I think what I meant to type on this one was share a story. So sharing a story, right? So that's the whole idea of stories, is that there is a progression. So do you want to give the example of Create Cultivate, how she showed the story of what was happening?
Yeah. So there's just really interesting ways, and you guys can get creative. And I would tell you, if sometimes you feel like you're not that creative, to just watch other people's stories and you can screen grab them so that you can kind of go back. So Create Cultivate, she's moving into a new house. And in her stories, she showed a bunch of blank shelves and she goes, tap to style. And you basically tap the screen, which really just brings you to the next 15 seconds of stories. And all of a sudden the shelves were styled. And then she says, she shows you another blank wall and just tap to style, and you tap and then it's styled again. So it's really just a before and an after image that you're doing, but you're having your customer or your follower engage with you. So I would love this. I mean, this is really cool that like if you were pouring candles, you might have an empty candle and you might be like tap to fill, and then they tap it and then the next picture is the candle full of wax.
Right. Tap to stain and it keeps getting darker, right? Tap to crochet, then it's the ultimate product. That would take a while. But when we're saying tell a story, it could be a lot of different things, right? Telling the story of how to do something, because a progression is usually 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you're thinking about like how somebody shows a recipe, it's like, ingredients, wet ingredients, dry ingredients, mix together, cook, and then finished product, taste, right? So telling the story of how to do something or doing a tutorial, or even just like what Create Cultivate did was she said, tap to style your shelf. And really it was just 3 photos that progressed into a final product, right?
Yeah. And ultimately, stories are called stories because they should be engaging, they should be interesting, they should take somebody through something. So, like a story, a beginning, a middle, and an end, a progression, like we say in this aspect. So, it could be a progression of something in action, right? Like showing your product in action. It could be, stuff at home. It could be, this is a recipe, this is me cooking, or it could be very specific to your product. So just remember that you're taking them through something, whether you're speaking directly to the camera or cool ways to kind of use still images, but that they're engaging and going through it.
Yeah, I think this is one of my favorite ones that we're mentioning because it is a creative way to use it, because there's so many spins and, molding what you're going to do to tell a story, right? A story can be told in so many different ways. It could be a time lapse or working backwards, or like what we said, which was like tap to style this shelf or tap to fill this candle. It just makes them feel like, oh, that's cool. I filled a candle, but they
it could
really
be,
just,
if you sell jewelry, like tap to style, and it could be, earrings added and the necklace added, and then it could tap again and like the necklace is removed and then the necklace is put back on. So you're using images to tell a story, or using video to tell a story. Instagram has a lot of different ways.
Right.
So should we jump into number 3?
Yes. Number 3. So this one is super important to right now, I feel like. Because people aren't sure how to use their stories, this can be like your little secret weapon. And that is, you can use it to bring offline sales online.
Absolutely. We talked about this in the survival kit course bundle, where we actually share ways in which you do this. So any of you that have, that are students in there, you guys are really digging in deep. We're seeing amazing results, right? Like that when we got a DM from somebody that was saying she literally hasn't sat down since she implemented some of the things we taught in there. So the idea of bringing offline sales online, there's no reason you can't sell through your stories. So you can't show your product through your stories and say, this is how much it is, DM me.
Yeah. I mean, it really is honing your skills in the QVC or HSN format, right? And whereas before people were thinking, maybe I don't need to learn those skills, now is the time to do it, and to do it in your Instagram stories, because it is really easy, right? These are 15-second snippets for you to sell something. And then also just even in like a photo or looking at the textures, or we've seen it done. HSN and QVC has thrived in it for decades. And now it's like you can do that in your stories, and it's a creative way to bring sales to your business.
One of the comments on the Facebook Live right now is from Maureen, and she says, "Oh, my stories have always been pretty random. I wondered why they were called stories." So sometimes it feels there's so much coming at you guys. there's so many changes. Like Mina and I realized there's a couple new changes to Instagram today. There's so many things. So it's really hard to keep up. And I know you guys are doing a great job. So we're just trying to sort of, hone in on some of the stuff because we see the power in Instagram stories for your business. And I think, like you said, Maureen, it's kind of underutilized.
Yes.
So another way to bring offline sales online is to take them through a story, right? Like dropping a new shoe, and then you show the shoe and you show features of the shoe. And you could say, buy online now, or link in bio to buy, right? So it doesn't always have to be you live like QVC HSN style with it. It can also be, again, still images that you are trying to sell the product through images or stories in your story.
Yeah. Imagine, right? Like if it was like front view, side view, right? If you're tapping along. So even that in the still image, a flat image feels more dynamic because you're tapping to move through the stories versus just having it on your feed where it's just, one angle.
Right. Okay. So the fourth way to be creative using Instagram stories for your business is
to
connect with your community with behind the scenes. And this is something that you want to do quite authentically, which Mina and I are currently doing as we're recording this live on Facebook, right?
Yeah. This is our first time doing it, so it'll definitely get easier, that's for sure. But this is such a great way. You guys, we've been seeing the thing I've loved about COVID-19. The thing I've loved about quarantine is that we've had behind the scenes access like we've never had before.
To everybody.
To everybody. And at their worst even, right?
From Obama to Chrissy Teigen to all the people, the new kids on the block.
And I've never felt so much more connected to these people that are doing different things, right? We saw SNL. I actually watched The Kitchen. It's a talk show like The View, but they cook. Yeah. And they're doing quarantine edition. So they're going to all their houses. One of them happens to be pregnant anyway. So it's just cool to see their lives, so it really connects your community with you with behind the scenes in a very authentic way where they're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I know that person that much more. There's plenty of friends that we've made on Instagram stories that we feel like we know them. In fact, I forget sometimes that we've never met them in person.
And we're not stalkers, we promise. No, but it is that idea, right? You get to see behind the scenes. You get to see them when they're in their car. You get to see their kitchen behind them, their kids running through the stories. So when we say connect to your community authentically, I know this is a really big stickler in our community that everybody, they want to sell authentically, right? They want to show up authentically. 100% we're with you there. So when you want to connect with your community with behind the scenes, it could be the process of making, right? It could be that you cook and that's just part of your story and you share it, because if that is part of your story, if you are in the kitchen making delicious meals, share that in your stories, right? It's a behind the scenes. But if you don't want to show yourself personally, or you don't feel like it aligns with your brand, then show the behind the scenes of you packing your boxes, you shipping your boxes, you creating the product, you updating your website. There's a whole bunch of things that you can share that are behind the scenes.
Yeah. And it's just bringing them into a different layer of your life that they would be able to connect with and feel like they resonate with you. Right.
Absolutely. Okay. So number 5.
So this is one that we talked about before a little bit too, right?
Yeah. And this is similar, but different. So you can share your brand story with a day in the life. And this, again, could be you personally. Some of you are cool with showing personal stuff, where it could be you, the mom, hustling, getting your kids, homeschooling them, fulfilling, 100 orders and then cooking dinner and drinking wine at night. Or it could be a day in the life of the product boss part of you.
Yes. So sharing a day in the life, what does that mean, right? So it could be like what Jacqueline has said, the whole entire day, but I think it also could be just taking a trip to the post office, or, sometimes people do a tour of where they make things and how they're doing it right now. There's a lot of things happening right now where people are offering a little bit more grace than they used to, right? So if you're working out of your basement, it's now cool versus before you might have felt uncertain about showing that, right?
Mm-hmm. We have multi-million-dollar businesses that we know that are operating out of their houses.
Yeah.
So these are the things, it's okay. And there's going to be this grace for a longer period of time. So why not now, right? Why not really connect authentically? Because they also want to get behind you. Like they want to root for you. They want to see, for example, if they start to follow you and you're small and, your house isn't, an Instagram famous person's house, but it is, and it's your working house. And then they follow you and they watch your business grow. And then you share in stories one day where you're like, I'm buying a new house. Yay. Thank you for all of your support. Like you've really helped our family. They get to kind of go through that success story with you, and they get to quote unquote buy that house with you as well, right? They celebrate your wins. So I think the day in the life, that behind the scenes, both 4 and 5 kind of go together a little bit, is important, because authenticity and real true connection is really essential right now.
But I think it's something that it's important to remind you guys. It's something that Jacqueline talks about all the time. And that's that this is twofold. You don't necessarily have to be the face of your business, because you can create that brand story that is you showing the brand feel, the brand culture. And it doesn't necessarily have to be sneak peeks of you buying a house, for instance. It could be the brand feel in here's how our packaging is popped up, the boxes, or here is how we answer our customer service. Here is us walking you through making a purchase on our website. So what is your brand story, and how are you walking people through their customer journey when they get to your brand?
Right. So let's flip it then. So number 6, it's kind of flipped, right? So one way they're getting to know you guys better. And then the flip of this, which is number 6, is get to know your customers better. So you can also use Instagram stories as a tool to really know what your customers want and what they need, and to just really start to connect with them in that way.
Yeah, which is like by far the easiest thing to do, because you can just use the stickers, right? Instagram was created for you to engage in a social way. So that means what do they have as far as like stickers or tools? They have the Q&A prompt thingy that you put a sticker and people can type in there. Why am I typing with 2 fingers? They're typing like this, right? Okay, I'm going to ask a question. Or there's a poll, yes or no, red or black, pink or blue, citrus or I don't know, pine. Or there's the quiz one. So getting to know your customers, but using it within the scope of what Instagram it's intended is by far the easiest thing you can do.
And Instagram is all about helping small businesses right now. Their quote unquote response to COVID-19 and quarantine is they're adding options. Like if you guys click on the little stickers box on your Instagram stories, you'll see that some have added gift cards to support small business, stay home, food order delivery. There's all these extra stickers. Today was a rollout of a new sticker.
Today's an exciting day for small business on Instagram's
It
platform.
truly is. And Instagram's on board, right? So let's see if we go to
here's what it's called. It's called Support Small. So it's a sticker that you can put on your Instagram story that tags other small businesses and auto-populates like 3 of their things off their feed. Right. Yes.
I'm showing it those on Facebook, and those on Facebook, don't judge my nail colors. My daughter gave me a manicure today.
Right.
So support small business. So if you do that, you can actually mention, and you can mention multiple small businesses. So you can share your favorite small business with friends. You could mention those of you online, let's say watching us, and then people can actually tap it and directly go to those small businesses. So they're leaning in hard to what do businesses need right now, and how are they using this as a tool?
Right. So I want to read them off really quick. Okay. It's called Support Small Business, and it looks like a little shopping icon. There's Stay Home, which you guys have seen, right? And that is so then you will show up in the other Insta story. Gift cards, like what Jacqueline is talking about. Food orders, which is cool. I haven't used that, but we have been ordering a lot of food lately. It feels like an adventure these days. And what's thank you?
Thanking people, like thank you to your doctor or your mailman.
Oh, yeah, the healthcare people, I see. Yeah, so there's lots of new cool things. You guys are always trying to do new things. Look, there's Insta Prom one, probably because a lot of people aren't doing prom, so they must be doing Instagram prom. But it just goes to show you that Instagram is trying to have you engage. they want you to engage and they're trying to make it easy. So use those stickers, you guys, and get out there and engage with people. And it's just really easy, and get to know your customer better by using the tools they give you.
Absolutely. Okay. So then the next thing is that there's number 7, which is really you can use this as a tool to communicate with your customers, and you can share or you can shout them out. So this is a way to, 1, post user generated content, and 2, to communicate. So maybe answering Q&As, like really popular, like questions and answers.
Right. So the idea really is to like open dialogue it up, so you're communicating with them. Maybe this is kind of like the important messages rolled in, but because Instagram stories, you don't know who actually sees your stories, you cannot over communicate. Right? You just can't over communicate. So it might not be getting to everybody. So when you're communicating with your customer, telling them, here's the shipping policies, showing you dropping things off, shouting them out, saying, sending this your way if it's another small business supporting you, for instance, and really just putting that into your Instagram stories. So it kind of all binds together.
Right. So another thing is, it's like, let's just say in that section where we were like, this is where you can ask, right, with the stickers, and you can ask questions. So you might be asking important questions, or they might be messaging you and asking you questions like, when do you ship? Or I want to get this by this holiday. When can I get them? You might then take those frequently asked questions and post them into your stories. And you may decide that there's certain frequently asked questions that you are constantly repeating on stories. You think about it, you're like, I should tell them again. This is how sizing works, or this is how shipping is, or, these are, people ask if they're natural products. Yes, they're 100% natural, blah, 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 blah.
Right. This is something that we chatted about, that Yearly Co., right? She sells gold bangles. She always does stories about how to use her sizing kit. Now, keep in mind, she already has a highlights that says how to use sizing kit. But she keeps telling the same story because it keeps popping up and people might not even see that highlight, right? So it's because it's such a frequently asked question, and she's walking people through the order process. This is how you size your wrist. This should feel very tight. This is how you send it back in. It just helps people in the way that you're doing it in the moment with them in your story, and they're like, oh, I didn't know that, right? That over communication in a way, but really walking them through so they don't have any obstacles stopping them.
Right. And you guys might be asking, some of you, depending on where you're at with this, might be asking what a highlight is. And a story only lasts for 24 hours. We have an Instagram crash course for e-commerce, and we go over so much of this, but just as like a really quick tidbit tip to you guys, stories only last for 24 hours, but there's certain content that you may want to live longer. Let's say a big influencer or celebrity wears your stuff and you share it in your stories. You may want to save that somewhere. Let's say you get an amazing testimonial or a shout out. You may want to save that somewhere. Let's say you have frequently asked questions. How do you size this? So highlights is a way that you can actually, they're those little bubbles. You can follow us and see what our bubbles are that are underneath your profile, and you can name them different things, and you can categorize the stories that you do into there, and they live there longer.
Right. And the thing that's great about highlights is that not only are they saving those stories for you, but they should also fit into your brand culture and feel, right? It's like what Jacqueline's saying. If an influencer wears your stuff, that really is a way for you to add credibility and validate your brand. So how can you do that within your highlights, right? The social proof that we're always talking to you guys about. So you save it, you make sure it's within the brand culture, the brand feel, because you're not going to highlight an influencer that doesn't align with your audience or doesn't align with your product or doesn't align with you as a business, right? So just make sure that that's the case.
Right. And as we're doing this live, I actually am also posting in our stories, a picture of us doing this, right? So this is a behind the scenes. So I'm posting a behind the scenes of us recording this podcast, and I'm tagging, a few people had dropped in their Instagram handles. So I'm tagging the small businesses with those stickers. So you guys can see right here how we're doing the behind the scenes. We're repurposing this into stories, right? And we're tagging a small business. So we're using stickers, which is amazing. And what's cool about these stickers, really quick, because this is the brand new drop today, is these small business stickers. They actually they show you for example, at Blythe Baubles. So they show you that the name, and then they actually show you the 3 most recent posts that they put. So it's actually, you see more images and you kind of get to decide, do I want to tag that?
I think it's the popular ones actually, which is even better.
Maybe. And actually, those of you watching that see yourself tagged on this post, take a look and see if it is your most popular ones that they're showing. Because as they roll out these things, Instagram doesn't let you know they've done it. You just all of a sudden are surprised by something new and you have to figure out how to use it.
Well, I love that you did that, right? You put a story up doing all these creative things that you use, and you basically did all of them. So you shared this important message. Hey, we're doing a live podcast episode. If you told a story, the progression would be like us trying to get on, me going like this, probably hand slap to the face. If there was a progression, right? Telling a story. Next, bringing offline sales online. So if we talked about like our Instagram crash course or anything like that, we could be bringing it online. Another thing is that we're connecting with our community with behind the scenes. This is really what it is, authentically communicating with you guys. And then share your brand story with a day in the life. Literally, if we showed other pieces of our brand story, you guys, this is our life. We literally podcast, sketch this thing out, and whatever, like
whatever, just go.
Yeah. Day in the life. Like, you guys do not want to see the bottom of this cut off Zoom, and then get to know your customer better. So Jacqueline is engaging. She'll probably put like a sticker or a poll, and then communicate with your customer and shout out to them. Yes. Over deliver and communicating with you guys. It's like, we didn't even know we were doing any of this stuff.
I am a quick start. I'm like, let's just do it while we're live recording on Facebook. So yeah, there's so many creative ways to use Instagram and stories. Another tip that I just want to throw at you is stories keeps you relevant and really helps engagement. Like, I talk about Instagram as this machine. Like, I always imagine it as a slot machine. You got to feed the slot machine. You hope by the 100th dollar you've spent that maybe it's going to pay you out $4. Who knows? So that's what my feeling of Instagram and stories keeps you relevant. It's one of those things that pop up faster for people. Like, if I'm using my hands, but it's at the very top of your Instagram app. There's those bubbles. And as you post throughout the day, it's chronological and it pops you forward. So if someone posted something in the morning, if you've watched it already, right? So if you've watched, Mina goes on stories in the morning and posts her having breakfast, and I've watched it, and she doesn't post again till the next day. Well, Mina's going to just disappear from my bubbles. But if Mina goes in and she goes live again and shows me her lunch, then she's going to pop back in around lunchtime. And then I get to watch the most updated content that she's pitching or posting. So that's the same idea for you guys. Like, stories is going to keep you relevant. Sometimes when we first started this, it was kind of overwhelming, right? Instagram, like integrating it into our lives. And so I remember sometimes I would just flood stories. I would do like 8 at one time, kind of like batching it and then walk away from it. You can do that sometimes because you guys, we just want you to really get used to this. But as you start to do it, start to use it more throughout the day using these creative ways, right?
Yeah. And try to keep it really simple and easy. Nobody is critiquing your Instagram stories. Okay. Like, don't feel like, my sister had said that you can't put up too many Instagram stories, because when I was using my personal one, I was like, I'm showing all these pictures of the girls. I'm showing all these different things. And she's like, no, you can't do too many Instagram stories, because the thing is, people don't see the old content anyways, right? So if they've already seen it once, you just pulled back to the front, like what Jacqueline was saying. And on top of that, you're only shown up at the front to the people that have been engaging with you. So that's why you want to make sure that, they might accidentally even catch you at the right perfect time, and they'll be more likely to see your upcoming stories.
Smile again. I didn't have enough room for all the stickers that I have to put up there. So we need another live picture. So you guys, we wanted to share all this with you because right now, and you've heard us, if you've been listening to the podcast, we just keep talking about how important it is to go virtual, how important it is to move online. Instagram is free. Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg. It's free. Facebook is free, right? To create this content and reach more people than we've ever been able to reach. And so we want to give you these tools and these tips on how you can definitely use this stuff for free, right? And use these tools. And you guys might have some really incredible ways that you've been using it or you've been seeing it work in your business, right?
Yeah. And just keep in mind, you guys, Mark Zuckerberg owns Facebook and Instagram, right? So it is indeed a business. He wants to make money eventually off of you. And though it is a social platform, it's not like, you know how there's like TikTok and Snapchat. You could be spinning your wheels and there's no intention for that person to be making money. It's sheerly social. Well, Mark Zuckerberg is really playing the monetary game here, right? He wants you to spend ad money. So in that case, lots of engagement or lots of tools will bring you to the front if you are engaging with those people. He wants to be engaging, but he wants you to do it in a business aspect too. So that's why your efforts on Instagram stories or your feed or whatever it is, if it happens to do work for business, and that's the way these are going. Facebook and Instagram, they're moving more towards being more business supportive versus Snapchat and TikTok, right? Where you probably can't even do businessy things on there quite yet. It would be really hard to gain some traction that way.
Yeah, it's a different type of like affiliation to sell through it. So
Right.
the goal, the thing that they've said is that they want you guys to engage. They want there to be like a two-way conversation. They want the person to tap on the screen. They want them to engage in your stories. That's the whole point of stories. More so than your feed. That's why they've actually allowed you to take your feed and repost it up to your stories. They want content in the stories, and that's all the stickers. If you guys think about all the rollouts that they're doing, the rollouts that they're doing are to stories ultimately, right? That like adding stickers, adding the ability to get a gift card, all of these things are because they know that is where people spend their time. I mean, hands up in the comments if you guys spend more time in stories than you do scrolling the feed.
You know why I think though too is because if you ever watch stories, you don't have to touch it but once. It automatically loops through. So it's like binging. So it's just like that Netflix thing where you're like, oh my gosh, I've watched 18 episodes in a row. How did that happen? Right? Same with stories. It just keeps going on to the next one, even between users. But the feed, you have to use your thumb and actually manually scroll. I mean, who has that kind of time or effort? You know?
Our thumbs are so lazy. No,
They really are.
It's true. You can Netflix and binge it. I mean, side note about Mina behind the scenes. She sometimes in the morning when she's getting ready, just clicks stories.
And then I just let it play.
Just lets it play. She knows all about everybody by the morning. Did you know? This is my first conversation with her. Did you know? Blah, blah, blah. How do you know that? I watched their stories this morning.
So I don't even have to touch it, right? But if I'm scrolling through the feed, I have to manually be active, you know? It's like junk for my brain.
Yeah. And so again, all of these things are created to be used and to be engaged with. So this was really fun to do this live. We're going to start doing live podcasts a bit more on our Facebook page. So make sure to follow this page, which is facebook.com/theproductboss. And we will put that into the show notes. But we have something that we also just, we've been getting so many questions in the DM and on Instagram, and we've been doing audits of people's Instagrams, and we've seen a lot, right? Of amazing things that people are doing. And also some things that we feel like they could probably fix or update or use the tool better, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, we all could stand to be improved. I think that the reason why we chose Instagram stories is because it's kind of a sure thing. Whereas like, how can, the feed, IGTV, highlights and that stuff, it can kind of be, you can probably batch it out. Stories though, there's a movement that has to happen, right? Like you have to actually, it's harder to batch things out because people want to authentically see real time stuff.
Right. So we created this course called Instagram for E-commerce Crash Course. We have had hundreds of people take it. It hasn't really ever been available publicly to our community or our listeners. And it's just something that we wanted to offer you guys as a tool to help you use Instagram for your e-commerce. And it's a crash course, and it's really made for makers, creators, and product-based businesses. And we have a link in the show notes. So if it's something that you want to check out and see if this crash course can really help you master Instagram as that tool, and ultimately as a sales channel as well to build your business and sell more, we have that option for you. So that's in the show notes.
Right. And that's if you want the help. You certainly can do Instagram stories and do all these 7 creative ways that we told you about without spending a dime too. It's just going to take a bit more effort learning it yourself. And I would say that the thing that you all should start with would be probably to watch other people's Instagram stories and see what you like.
And you guys, if you have an iPhone, you can save it. So you can screen grab and save. So you can sometimes like capture stuff if you need to. That's another tip. And then it goes into your photos. And there's also screen record. Do you guys know about that on your iPhone? If you swipe down where you can kind of see your
dashboard or something?
Yeah, like where you could do not disturb or turn on your Wi-Fi or change the screen brightness. I think that would be where people do it. There is a dot within a circle. So kind of like a target. And if you click on that, it counts down and you'll see your clock turn into red. And then that actually starts screen recording. So anything you're kind of looking through or scrolling on your iPhone will be recorded and saved as a video. So for example, sometimes I'll see really creative ways of people using stories and they're taking you through a story of like, introducing this and this and this and this and this. I'll actually screen record the entire story as I click through it so that I can go back and reference it. Because remember, stories go away after 24 hours. And if it was something that inspired you, you may want to save that.
Right. And another quick tip too is if you're looking at other people's Instagram stories and you hold down your thumb, you're holding down and pressing on the screen, it stops it from moving. So
yes.
Like if you hold your thumb down, screenshot it, you can usually screenshot it, but that's only one screenshot at a time. Whereas with Jacqueline, you can do multiple ones and kind of fly through them and we'll send them to each other.
And I sometimes ask people, I say tap to hold, because if let's say you're writing something, like let's say you wrote a paragraph as a message to your customer, you may need to train them and teach them to put their thumb on the screen or whatever to hold it so it doesn't change after 15 seconds. If let's say you think it's going to take them longer than 15 seconds. So those are a few different ways. And I want you guys to just explore, depending on if you're a business account, well, actually become a business account if you plan on doing stuff with your business through this, but start to explore those stickers. And like I said, stories, they have, even when you go do the story, there's different ways you can do, and there's like create now, and there's different options there too. So take a look and see what Instagram keeps updating and offering you and how you think you could be creative and start using that in your business.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's so much fun in there, you guys. We engage a lot on Instagram. So if you guys ever want to tag us on that shop small or whatever that sticker was, right? And we'll auto-populate in there. So we're always in the DM, and it just takes a little bit of practice, but it's actually, don't feel overwhelmed by it. Start watching other people's, even take a photo of your coffee, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be anything crazy big. It's just 15 seconds.
Okay. So thank you for listening to this podcast and watching it live. Again, in the show notes, if you're listening to this on your phone, listening to the podcast, we have links to everything in the show notes. And those of you watching live on Facebook, thank you. And if you haven't, like we said, like that page, make sure to like our Facebook page. So that way, when we do go live like this, you can be notified and you guys get this content early, right? Because everyone watching on Facebook has heard this in the past. You're listening to it in the future.
Hello, future you. You're doing great. This week has been awesome for you. So also, you will get the unedited version. There's lots of time. I mean, you obviously know this is going to be edited, right?
Right.
It goes into the podcast in actuality.
No, I haven't messed up at all.
Thanks everybody for hopping on. And I hope this was really helpful, you guys. We have loved sharing with you the 7 creative ways to use Instagram stories for your business. No pressure, but I think this is probably the easiest gateway to using Instagram and then, getting that wheel turning. So again, I've put all the links in the show notes. And if you haven't already, follow us at The Product Boss on Instagram. So we'll see you over there.
Bye.
Thanks everybody. This episode is over, but it doesn't have to end. Head over to our Facebook group, search for the Product Boss Biz Community, or the link is also in the show notes. Come connect with other product bosses just like you. We'll see you in there.
If you love the Product Boss podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe, share, rate, and give a review on iTunes. Until next time, product bosses, let's make it happen.